Good morning. It is time for our daily devotion, and today we begin in the book of Galatians. Galatians chapter 1 is Paul's introduction to this letter. He's writing the church at Galatia, or at least the church made up of those Gentiles in that area of the world, and actually to several churches. He makes that clear in his introduction that this letter is to be circulated among the churches that are in this region. Now, something is happening in the church as a whole in this part of the world, and that is that there have been some legalistic Jewish Christians who have come from Jerusalem. They have represented themselves as coming from James, the head of the church in Jerusalem. And as a result of that, they carry some clout. Now, the truth is they've misrepresented that, but they come in the name of the church in Jerusalem saying that you Gentile Christians must not break the law. You must keep the law of Moses. You must be circumcised. You must do the rules and regulations thing along with your faith in Jesus Christ. Now, that is not the gospel that Paul has preached. Paul has preached here and around Asia Minor the gospel of grace, the gospel of mercy, that we are saved by faith and faith alone, faith plus nothing. And here these Judaizers, these legalizers come in and say, well, it is faith, but it's faith plus something. And so Paul is writing to the Christians here to say to them, that is not correct. That's not right. It is faith and faith alone that saves. You don't have to keep the law of Moses. You don't have to go back to the rules and regulations. You don't have to be circumcised. It's not faith plus all these other things. It is the gospel. And he's relatively hard on these folks at the church, where he says in verse 6, I am amazed that you are so quickly deserting him who called you by the grace of Christ for a different gospel. Now make no mistake about it. Paul says here that if we add anything to the message of grace, however well-intentioned it may be, we contaminate the gospel to the point that it is no longer the pure gospel of grace and the gospel of Christ. Now, we can do that with all kinds of well-intentions and good motives. We can say, well, if you come to Christ, you should stop doing this and stop doing this and stop doing this and stop doing this. Or you should start doing this, start doing that. Usually it's a combination of things that we want people to stop doing and start doing. And although we may not say it, we may not actually communicate verbally, if you don't do this, you aren't really a Christian. The insinuation sometimes is practically that strong. It's certainly that strong when we put down rules and regulations that basically say you can't have fellowship with us, or we can't have fellowship with you. We're not going to join together in supporting you as a new Christian unless you stop doing these things or start doing these other things. Paul wants us to know that it is grace. Now, God is going to work on us. God is going to mature us. God is going to change our behavior. He's going to change our want-tos. He's going to change the things that we do. And we are going to grow in Christ to become more mature Christians and realize that some of the things that we're doing or not doing should be changed. But none of those things can be linked to whether or not we obtain salvation. We obtain salvation by believing in our heart that Jesus has come, paid the price for our sin on the cross, was buried, and rose again on the third day. And when we put our faith and trust in that, there is grace and mercy, regardless of our activities or our behaviors, that God will ultimately want to work on and change. Live in grace. It is all by faith. Make it a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.